good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are listening or watching. I'm Mark Edwards. This is the Channel Zone podcast, and our guest today, Al Stevens. Al is the founder of Darwin Technology Solutions, clearly a tech company, but a tech company, I think, with a difference, in as much as the aim of the business seems to be actually to try and change the way that organizations buy their critical IT. So, Al, how are you today?
Yes, good. Thanks, Mark. Sorry, I was just waiting for the intro. But yeah, all good. Thank you. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for joining us. Just to kind of kick us off before we get into the weeds of the business itself, I'm just intrigued. You know, Darwin Technology Solutions. I'm hoping there is. I'm assuming. Is there a reason why you chose that name, and why?
Yes, yeah, there is. So I really like that question. So when we first started out, as you alluded to in the intro, so we wanted to build a business that changed the way that people buy technology in this country. So I think we're doing it step by step. But the premise of the name was around evolution in terms of that change, and also, and we'll get into, like you say, into the weeds as to how we operate and what we do, but also built around the survival of the fittest. So as we're running our processes, our assessment processes after vendor selection, which vendor is going to come out on top and why. So the idea behind Darwin was around evolution and the survival of the fittest.
Right. Okay. I was wondering if it was. I don't know if it was something to do with Western Australia or something. I know because they're. But I'd kind of assumed that. But and it works as a name, as you said. Are customers intrigued by it? Does it?
Yeah, and similar to you, really. They never know whether or not we've actually thought about it, or if there's some context behind it, or whether it's something that's geographical. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was It took a little while to come up with it, but once we did, we were happy with it. Really happy with it.
No, super. So, I say name is one thing, but as a tech solutions provider, in terms of this changing the way that organizations buy their critical IT, what needed to be changed? What are the problems that Darwin solve today?
If we go back so we started in 2022.
Yes.
So if we think back past, beyond that, sort of maybe a couple of years beyond that, the dreaded C, COVID.
I was going to say, 2022 was still lockdown, though, wasn't it?
No, I think we were out of lockdown.
We were just appearing back into the world at that point. The kind of sunlight was a little bit startling to us.
But but what was different when we did re-emerge was the technology landscape. So
right
through COVID and over that period, you saw a complete change. Everyone's heard
it. Point.
Everyone saw a word or heard all this before over the past 5 years, but you saw a complete change in the way that people operate, where they work from, how they work, when they work. But obviously that presents an opportunity to a marketplace like the technology marketplace, because it gives vendors, MSSPs, MSPs an opportunity to go and speak to a customer about something that they haven't sold them yet, potentially, right? What I noticed during that period was the emergence and the speed at which new technologies and new providers and new SaaS platforms were emerging. And honestly, I couldn't see anybody or any business that was helping customers navigate that marketplace. It was just loads and loads of noise, and people were buying multi-layered solutions and rolling out different SaaS platforms because they had to, and being guided by the service provider world and by the technology world rather than what their business necessarily needed at that time. So when you look at that marketplace, you see, well, you've got all of these people that need to buy and implement services to help fulfill their business strategy and make themselves more efficient and secure and all that kind of stuff. And you've got daily emergencies of new vendors, new providers, new portfolios, new products in that vendor marketplace. And so rather than what do you do in that situation as a buyer, as an IT leader in a business? What do you do in that situation? You either, there's probably a few more iterations of this, but you go back to your existing service provider and see what they can do for you. Their capability may or may not fit that requirement, but they'll try and they'll make sure that it's articulated in a way that it does. You go or you go to market and you have a projects team and you have an IT manager, project manager, a technical manager that works within your business, goes out to market, writes a document that says this is what we think we need, takes it out to market, is then inundated by salespeople, sales engineers. Can we do a demo? Can we do a discovery call, etc., etc., etc.? And the wholesale resource, the time that it takes for you to do that, drives you to option one, really. So the way that I envisage that we would change that process would be that we would sit in between the people that need to buy it and the people that want to sell it, and we do that resource management piece. So we would go, right, let's build a steering group. Let's pull that steering group together, interview everybody. What's wrong with the business? So we don't just speak to IT. We'll talk to sales, ops, finance. We'll find out what the business is saying, and then we'll build a guidance doc around it. Let's build a needs analysis. Write it into an assessment document for a customer to sign off, and then we'll take it to market on your behalf. And we'll go and find, from a vendor selection perspective, 3, 5, 7, 11, depending on the size and complexity of the solution, vendors that can do the thing that you want to do. And then as part of that process, we'll put a project manager on it, we'll put a technical manager on it, and we'll run it through an assessment process that absorbs all of the sales pattern, absorbs a lot of the SE and a lot of the discovery calls and a lot of the resource that it takes out of a business to go through this process.
Right.
And deliver a single version of the truth back to the customer. So that's how we envisage changing the marketplace. How do you break down the barriers to entry in such a competitive space as technology was and still is? And I guess the twist to it was giving the service free of charge to customers. So how do we build that resource plan so that a customer doesn't pay Darwin for the service? Right.
How do you do that?
Right. So and that's the twist of the model, is that we do all that service. We've got a technical director, we've got project managers, we've got commercial consultants, managing director, business managers to organize all the diaries and everything like that. And our invoice goes to the marketing team of the vendor that wins the process. So throughout that process, the customers agreed or given us some vendors, or we've worked together really to work out what that vendor list looks like at the outset.
Right.
The customers made that decision. We don't make a recommendation. We say, these can do it. This is the process of each of the vendors. Which ones would you like to take forward? Right, we take them forward. And then there are key milestone points, demonstrations, further discoveries, best and final offer presentations, that kind of thing. Customers involved in that process because they're going to contract with that vendor at the end of the process. So obviously they need to have that relationship with them. But as we go through that process and the customer down selects and they think, right, okay, we really, really like vendor A. They've performed well in the process. The pricing's good. We love the technology. We'll then invoice that vendor's marketing team.
Got you.
For running that process and effectively introducing them into a project that they wouldn't have otherwise known about.
Yes, it sounds to me then like you are a mix of procurement, because a lot of that there is a procurement process that maybe a very, very large organization would go through. They'd have a procurement team that would probably do much of that. So I don't know whether it's kind of dependent on the size of your customers, but it's a combination of that procurement process, but also the technology appreciation and understanding and technological kind of know-how that you've got within the business, bringing those two things together. Customers like it?
They seem to. Yeah, they seem. I'm touching wood. Yeah, I'm touching wood. They seem to like it. We target everyone on case studies. So there's 8, 9 case studies, customer case studies online now, because as with all these things, the biggest challenge is telling people about it and helping people understand and trust the business model. So we try and get as many customers as we can to sit alongside us in front of a camera and tell the world what their experience is and was of working with Darwin. And we've got 100% referenceability in our customer base.
Well done.
Not everyone can record case studies, but those that can will. And long may that continue.
And you're demonstrating value numbers-wise. I think I saw from whether on the website or on some of the other information you're putting out there, you are putting some metrics out there as to what the customer can save in terms of time or improvement in, I don't know whether it's operational improvement, but you've got some numbers to add to the mix.
I mean, it's estimated, it'll vary on the size and complexity of the project, but we think about 145 hours of resource, which equates to 17,000 pounds in terms of an assessment procurement process. But the thing that people really like as well is that we can feed into a procurement team, so we can work into existing procurement teams. We don't replace any function within a business. It's that old adage of we become part of that organization.
Right.
And we are led by the IT team. It's just that the IT team don't have to spend all their time on that project. They can keep their eyes open and work on the next project or the outcome or more or higher priority stuff. And we can go and do the legwork and make sure that they come out with the right partner for the project at the end of it. But
well, it sounds like it's all going well. Where are you? 3 years in. You mentioned 2022 and in 2025 at the moment. So they said 3 years of running your own business. Prior to that, you had done, I think maybe 15 years in the corporate world. And now, I'm just interested on a personal side, as a founder, as somebody who's had to build a team, trying to build a company. What any major insights that you've had over the last few years?
Yes, the biggest insight is that I don't run the business. We've got a manager here. The first person I brought in was a managing director to run the business. So,
wow.
I'm responsible for customers and looking after everybody and making sure that everything's going smoothly from a customer's perspective.
Got you.
But the managing director runs the business. So
Can I make a point there? Because when I looked at your LinkedIn, normally when you see founder, it's founder and CEO. This what you know what I mean. That is, but you've just got. I noticed that, but now you're being quite specific about it. So you founded the business, but actually, you say when it comes maybe to running it, you've got other people who are running it.
Yeah, I mean, you hire people to do things that are better than you can do.
I agree.
I was sat. I knew Simon, our MD. I knew him from playing rugby together, and he's scaled and exited a couple of businesses in the past as well. And we'd had a really, really good first year. It was starting to take a bit of a hold, and I was sat looking at spreadsheets and VAT and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, I'm no good at this. Saw Simon, showed him what we were doing, business plan, all that kind of stuff, and he was like, yeah, it looks really good. So Simon since then, so I think he's been with us 2.5, just between 2.5 and 2 years ago, he joined us, and he runs the business side of things. So anything finance, marketing, anything like that goes through Simon, and I'm there to focus on customers and making sure that everything's going smoothly from their perspective.
Right, no, that's very impressive. As I said, to work out where your strengths and weaknesses are, and when you identify the weakness, to say, right, okay, well, can I put together a team basically a team where there's somebody else who's excellent at doing those things, and I'll stick to what I'm really good at. So yeah, that's a very powerful insight and a very useful one to have so early on in the growth of the business.
The interesting thing, Mark, is actually when we first started having those conversations about growth and how we scale Darwin, because we know the business model works, we know people like it. It's just how quickly we can tell people about it. So the interesting thing was how where you replicate what we do in the business. So do you try and replicate me, which we've done a couple of times and not been very successful in terms of almost the business development, onboarding of customers,
yes,
or which is what we think is the right thing to do you scale the technical and project management side of the business, and have me going out speaking to customers, telling everybody what we do, but actually have the expertise from a customer's perspective, the real value in the technology and the project
Right.
management.
Yeah. No.
We've tried a couple of times to get people in to help me do what I do, but unsuccessfully. So that's probably the biggest lesson is alongside bringing Simon in to run the company because I wasn't very good at it. Failing, I know it's a cliche, but failing quickly and just understanding that your first option, your second option even might not be the best option. But as long as the business works and you know that there's value there for a customer, you just got to reconfigure it and make sure that you get it right eventually. So that's
That makes an awful lot of sense to me, and you did you did well to pick up on those things so quickly. I'm envious. I'm jealous. It took me 20 years just to come to those conclusions in some
Simon.
sense. So by that point, it's a little too late in the day.
I can't
So
give too much credit for it. That was
say, no, well done on that, because it's not a, let's say, as every entrepreneur, many of them will have come from the corporate world at some point, but there's not that many of them. I will have met thousands of people working within a corporate environment. There's very few that will then step up. Even though many of them, I can guarantee you, will have ideas and have an inkling to do it, and many of them really, really desire to have what they might see as the opportunity. But to go out and do it is relatively rare, I would say. So congratulations on that. Listen, on the tech side, so again, even since you mentioned lockdown and the changes there, the changes to working practices and so on, and work from home and
yeah.
everything else, technology seems to be, I don't know, where kind of the momentum gathering significant pace and at the moment. Looking forwards, what are the technologies that you're excited about or interested in that you think that you're going to be able to use to serve your customers as well? So what about technological advances? What's coming? What are the trends?
Um, it's the AI, isn't it?
It's the AI.
It's the AI. You know, you can't go half an hour without mentioning that. I don't really know if anybody knows where it fits in yet, to be honest with you, but that's an evolving market. Again,
Yes.
that's where we were with from where we started 3 years ago with the boring tech as we coin it. But the, the evolution of AI and automation and the efficiencies that businesses seemingly can drive from that is the next big thing, isn't it? It's just making sure. I don't know if they'll regulate it at some point, but it's just making sure that the data's it comes back to your data in your business, making sure your data's clean and structured and all that kind of stuff, so that you can actually take advantage of it, rather than chucking Copilot onto your emails and recording everything, because that can that can go wrong as well, as we've
Yes,
seen
I'm sure.
in a few instances. So I think that's a big thing, and we're doing quite a lot of work around that at the moment to establish need rather than which. So we're doing a little bit of work around that at the moment. From Darwin's perspective, we've got a new technology director starting a couple of weeks' time, mid-April. And one of the big things that we've been asked about, we do a fair bit of work in legal and accountancy. And one of the big things we've been asked around is practice management systems, case management platforms, document management platforms, for people looking to change the way that they operate the businesses.
Right.
Consolidate. So the new chap coming in, Greg, is gonna build that practice for us. So we're just really building on that on the boring stuff. I shouldn't call it the boring stuff. It's the infrastructure, the critical stuff. So
Yes. The
very
bread
much,
and butter at the end of the day, that
yeah,
that businesses are built on. So that again makes a lot of sense. And I would have thought each new technological advance that in one of the, let's say, whether it's a legal organization, you're learning as all the time as well. Every one of these projects you're involved in, you probably come out of it as well with an enhanced view and perspective of what that technology can do for that type of organization. So
exactly.
interesting. But you work in a number of sectors. Just briefly
Yeah,
touch upon, you mentioned legal.
we're sectorless, really. I mean, I won't list everyone that we work with, but because of the way that we work, it's a time, risk, resource, cost challenge rather than a sectorized challenge. So we're working with teams that don't necessarily have the, again, time, resource, inclination to do a market assessment, rather than
Right.
law firms or accountancy firms or logistics firms. The thing that attracts people to us is the fact that we take a load of time and weight out of the process, and they can do a full market assessment. And we've had instances where, like a lot of instances, I think it's 75% of our customers buy something that they didn't know existed before we started the process, which is an astounding statistic.
So you're 3 years in.
Yeah,
Just give us a view. What do you think? What's happening in the next 3 years? Where do you think things are going? What do you have plans? Do you have a vision? What do you want? Where do you want to take the business?
we want to grow the business. Where we believe there's a huge amount of value in what we do. I want Darwin eventually to be almost the de facto choice of IT leaders when they want to move, add, replace, renew technology. I want us to be the business that something lands on their desk and they ring Darwin.
Super. Well, that's in which case, if we do have any of those people watching or listening to the podcast, where can people find you, Al, or the business? Where do they go to find Darwin?
Darwin-tech.com is the website. Al Stevens at darwin-tech.com is my email address. Get me on LinkedIn. We've got a YouTube channel, all the usual channels you can get in touch. So yeah.
Super. All right. Well, look, thanks ever so much for joining us. Really interesting, and as I say, especially interesting for me, as I said, you having made the jump from the corporate world into running a business yourself. So I take my hat off for that, and look forward to keeping an eye on Darwin's growth and development, and dare I say, evolution over the next few years as well. So. We'll speak again soon. Until then, all the very best. Thanks for joining us today. Cheers, Al.
Cheers, Mark.